bit of a funky thing. And it's a bit of a funky thing that, me as a Frost Mage, apparently now, that I'm going to be feeling. So,
Indeed.
some of the legendaries conflict with tier sets. As an example, what if your legendary can only be crafted onto chest and hands? Or something.
Yeah, I mean, this literally hit me where I'm probably going to play Resto Shaman more than anything else this patch. And Primal Tidecore, which is the best single legendary by a substantial margin for rating, goes on head and hands.
How on earth have they messed this bit up? Oh, I mean, I guess it's because it's stupidly complex. But anyway, look, one of the things that kind of was annoying in patch 9.1 was the whole regrafting legendaries in new slots debacle.
Yeah.
Right? Now, they did actually learn from that by giving us the legendary recycler, which will give you your soul ash and your soul cinders back. So that is good news. However, of course, it doesn't give you your gold back. Which is
much worse as a problem now.
Yeah, because turns out things are really expensive in the game right now. But now we've got a problem when the same issue has basically happened again. So if you recall back to 9.1, when the implementation of the domination sockets and all of that meant that some people had no choice but to recraft their legendaries to fit around the new system. At that time, people had to refarm soul ash to craft it in a different slot and also spend a whole bunch of gold. However, the difference now is that unlike with the domination gear, you can't just recraft a legendary in a different slot for certain specs because both slots are tier gear or maybe the new double Lego belt. I know one example, Frost Mage, I believe, is, so Freezing Winds. Head hands. Cool.
Enjoy AoE there.
So that's like...
Yeah.
Now, I get it with tier. With tier gear, you only need 4 bits.
Yeah.
But it's quite annoying for... Well, you want to get your Lego, okay? So you want to get your Lego... You want to get it ASAP. So you're probably going to be getting your Lego before you get your tier gear.
Yeah, because honestly...
Or maybe you already have it.
Yeah, you probably have it now.
But it's quite annoying for coordinating your drops then.
Yeah.
Because, you get a bit of tier gear. Oh, it's the same as where my legendary is. Cool. Guess I'll spend 1 trillion gold to recraft that.
Yep.
So that just feels funky. This is a weird design oversight, I suppose. But it's one that's just because they didn't design the game well at the start, and they haven't been able to remove those things. So the game just didn't like 9.2 is trying its hardest, but it just inherits a bunch of issues.
Yeah, it's frustrating where there's so many ways out of this problem. There's so many ways to avoid it, but they kind of can't really do any of them.
So are we expected to recraft legendaries ad nauseum, changing slots depending on which tier set pieces we just so happen to loot? Something we can't plan for. And that's not particularly satisfying, especially when, you know the WoW token exists. You think about why there was such a financial incentive for raiders to, partake in boosting and stuff. And it's just because all this shit's really expensive. So anyway, as for who is affected, the most impacted are Elisham, Frost Mage, Shadow Priest, Affliction Lock, and Arms Warrior. Most of the ones that have conflicts aren't mega popular, right? So
yeah, these
are the 5 that are the most affected.
That's one of the other things. It's just a general issue where they've done this to split up legendaries and kind of try to make the legendary decision of which to go for, where to craft a lot more interesting. But then they kind of scuffed it because so many of the legendary effects are either utterly useless or, they're strong, but they're multiple percentage points weaker than the best ones. So all this legendary choice really boiled down to, as far as user experience goes, because we're all metagaming bastards, there's no way around that anymore. That genie's firmly out of the bottle. It's just this case of you go and you pick which one's going to be the best for your content, which drastically reduces a lot of the choice and means there's a lot of cool legendaries that, because of how double Lego worked in Legion and how strong some of them were, and the fact you had everything over time without a whole bunch of effort, meant that you could pick and choose and have some sort of design around it, or have fun. I don't know how fun it was for people, but the whole point of, it's tyrannical week and you're doing keys above 20, put on your Pride Ass or you're dead. That may not have been the most engaging, but there's at least points of that where everyone had everyone had a list of powers they could swap and choose between. Same kind of way with Heart of Azeroth in a little bit. And they kind of went, well, we'll limit player choice, but we'll make the acquisition there. And they just kind of scuffed it, so people don't want to acquire everything. They're like, I'll get the ones that work for raiding, single target, and AoE from Mythic Plus. And then I'm not going to look at any other legendaries.
And that's the weird thing, because sometimes we kind of think like, wow, where's the content? Like, where is the content? And then you think about all these systems, and you think about how fucking complex it must be to actually math all of this out and get all the itemization and do all of that. And, do all of the class design. There's so many, things that impact other things. It's also multiplicative and complex.
Yeah.
And then you just realize, but wait, we all just use, say, 2 or 3 things anyway. And then you're kind of thinking, okay, so we're getting all of the downsides of a big, expansive system. Mm-hmm. We're not actually getting any of the upsides of that. Meanwhile, over in FF land, they're just like, this is how the spec, or this is how the job is. That's that. We're done.
Yeah. You don't get any customization, but we'll make this fun for you. If you don't like it, sorry.
It's the weird thing, I remember, was it Preheat's guide? And, man, I really laughed when I saw it. It was like, patch 9.1 has added in 4 new Covenant Legendaries, or whatever. However, you shouldn't use them. Or however, you should not craft them because they're not competitive with the other ones. And it's like, great new patch feature. Wonderful.
Yep.
And sure, they're getting some use now. But it just does make you think, the way that they put so much design time into, broadening the vertical progression instead of just making more horizontal progression. I would wonder, the people who are just crunching all these numbers and, making 500 billion items and all of that. What if we just had less items? What if this was all so much more simple? And actually, what we did have was just those people making content to do. Yep. Making a cool little system, designing a fun little thing to do it's more horizontal in its nature, so it's not all just for the almighty item level. Yeah. It just friggin' makes you think. There's so much in this game and so much, needless complexity that doesn't seem to benefit anyone other than give the people who make it more work to do. So it's why are we doing this? Are people really benefiting from how they could have so many more legendary powers than the 1 or 2 that are ever viable?
Yeah,
makes you think.
It's a bunch of theoretical design as opposed to actual design. That's the problem. Because it never gets actualized in games, so it's all wasted. And it's frustrating because they can kind of, there's ways around this. It's so handy. Imagine the same system, but instead of crafting the legendary gear, you had to bring Soul Ash or Soul Cinders. Obviously, ideally, we're in a world without Soul Ash or Soul Cinders, but imagine a world where in Shadowlands 9.0, you brought the memory to the Runecarver, and then you had to go through some form of hoop. Probably was Torghast related. Maybe you had to do a specific task in Torghast for that memory after you've brought it to him. So you acquire the memory, you then activate the memory, and then this is going to have a problem, but for shorthand, let's say you get the Heart of Azeroth and it doesn't work. It's not connected to Azeroth. So instead you connect it to the way you touch the first one's Waystone?
Yeah.
And that's wow, what the hell? This person is linked to Azeroth. Maybe you give, especially for new players, just give them the Heart of Azeroth then and there and say, don't worry about it. But use the Heart of Azeroth, replace the essences with legendary powers. And then you have a case where you can just swap it anytime you want, as long as you've activated the memory.
Ah, yes. My redesign of Legion Legendaries that I did 2 or 3 months after Legion came out.
Yeah.
It just would have worked and would have none of this complex shit.
Yeah.
Some people in chat are just, I was talking about Preheat's guide. That's the Frost Mage guide. I wasn't saying that the Covenant Lego is useless for everyone.
Yeah. Also,
it's Frost Mage that it's. I mean, there are many that it is pretty useless for.
Also the difference between Covenant Legendaries, every 3 weeks, they were changed pretty substantially.
Yeah,
from early PTR, I remember a lot of them were severely undertuned, and now some of them are batting with regular legendaries, and some of them are So what they did was, they were so weak and so unwanted as compared to most regular legendaries. Over the course of 9.1, they buffed them, but seemingly without too much of an eye for 9.2's double Lego system, because now there's cases where some covenants are made the covenant balance, which they eventually got close enough to write. So now a lot of classes and specs go, yeah, we'll pick whatever we want. It's fine. There's some niches that are meta, but generally speaking, work away. But now Covenant Legendaries are sometimes a bit too strong and retilt the balance again.
Fun.
There's a couple. I think Mandel was talking about this on Twitter a while ago. But yeah, a couple of things, but yeah, so that's them. So that's the thing about Covenant Legendaries. They were terrible, and now they're not so terrible over time. The benefit of a live game that also didn't really work out too well. But yeah, no, to go back to my point, Heart of Azeroth with Legendary Parse. Make the acquisition interesting, but make it one time. Don't make it too expensive. And I think people will be generally happier because they have the, all of that stuff's usable. And people can, instead of this, like, sorry, you really want, here's an example. Okay, Resto Shaman. I'm going to take Primal Raid Core Primal Tide Core for raiding because I want the extra Riptide. If I want to do an M+, I would feel more optimal if I had Deep Tremor Stone. But that's going to cost me a lot of gold to go and craft. So I'm probably just going to suck it up and feel unoptimal the entire time I'm playing M+. Like, whatever. Hateful, but... And that problem would get rid of it.
Yeah, I don't know that they really like it being in loot, and I'm pretty sure this has been said in the past.
Yeah.
They just really like it being in loot, and it's like, I get that loot's exciting, but nah, I think if this was just something on your character, or even if it was like the Heart of Azeroth where it took up one slot and then that was just it all lived there, I just think there's a degree of simplicity that they need to embrace, where what is the real feature of Legendaries? I don't think it's tweaking and tinkering your specific gear set. The gameplay of Legendaries is what cool fun power do I want to play with on my character. So I think they should do a system that just completely, optimizes for the usability of that and enjoying Legendaries as like a fun way to customize your gameplay rather than being so focused on like the acquisition and the items and which slots and all of those things that just end up making the game, surely so complex for them to balance and design and upkeep.
Yeah. Even, man. It's such a difficult situation I think they end up in. But like, even I think the idea of gear set management I think is actually pretty okay. I think that's a pretty cool thing for people to do. It's just the cost of keeping that in is just too high for other players, where you may want to think about a different way to handle gear management, because I think gear set management works better when you have substantially more and better loot. But you can't have loot be a treadmill to an end goal and then also try to have a load of gear set management at the same time, because what you're doing is you're designing all this gear set like management, but you're going to have a tiny percentage of players ever engage with it, because more players are focused about, I'll just get the gear that's a higher item level for me, and then that's us on the way.
Yeah, so funny little system, and we don't really know how this is going to be resolved. I suppose just become a swiper, and you might have to spend some more gold if, say, you're a frost mage using freezing winds. I suppose. Yep. Though, slick ice is probably
you'll want slick
ice to be using, so I won't really be using freezing winds. But anyway, and I suppose as well. Oh no! Just think about frost mage builds, because there's a
frost mage builds.
I know. No. There is Necrolord. Frost Mage, more of a viable thing for Mythic Boss.
Frostbolt Cleave.
Yeah. Anyway, right. So that's the weirdness of the Legendaries conflicting. Look, do you know what it is? It's just layers and layers and layers of systems, and at some point it gets really unwieldy. So we need to have less layers, keep it simple, and then focus on exciting new features and things that will get people back into the game.
Indeed.
Because I don't think people come back into the game for like, the thing got more complex. I think it's like people want a cool new feature, a cool, thing they can do.
I think at this point, people won't come back for additional toppings or additional dressing. I'm going to use the food analogy.
Yes.
It's like, imagine you go to a place that has really good pizza. Like, for your case, imagine the Sunflower. You could go have some really nice, it's bog standard pizza, but it's pretty good. And then they start getting sort of full of themselves and start to think, okay, well, how do we make this better? Oh, we'll throw a load of toppings in. And they make all these incredible sort of topping, like really interesting toppings and really interesting combinations. And then you get to choose, and it's kind of like more pizza punks, where you get like wild stuff like candied maple bacon on your pizza, stuff like that. or whatever there's another weird thing they do, like the slow cooked pork. I think they have. There's like Guinness slow cooked pork. Anyway, then over time the pizza gets worse because they're so focused on the toppings. And then there's a point where they will announce, we've got a new topping on the menu, and everyone goes, but your pizza's still shit. I think people want to come back because World of Warcraft is now good pizza, as opposed to extra toppings on the pizza that isn't as good anymore.
I suppose if those toppings are just more ways to make like gearing and player power more complex, then sure. Also, do you have something to say about pizza punks?
No. Yeah.
You calling them out?
No, for legal purposes, I'm not calling pizza punks out on the quality of their pizza.
Whoa, well, for legal purposes, I am.
I'm simply saying that it was the first place that came to mind when I thought of interesting toppings. That's all.
Yeah. Oh, interesting toppings, I think. Questionable quality. Definitely, if you want a good pizza, go to the Sunflower Bar in Belfast. Okay.